All right, let's just jump right into it. Today, we're unpacking the 2014 cyber thriller Algorithm. It's this incredibly gripping story that pulls us way down into the dark, hidden world of government surveillance, hacking, and the, quite frankly, terrifying reality of digital privacy, or, the total lack of it. I'm super excited to guide you through this breakdown, so let's get started. So, what actually happens when a small time hacker accidentally downloads a top secret government surveillance tool? Well, picture this guy, Will. He's a freelance hacker. Normally, he's just breaking into Wi Fi networks for kicks or maybe taking on these low level private detective style contracts. Nothing too crazy. But then, a businessman named Gordon hires him for what seems like a completely standard domestic job. Basically, hack his own home network to see if his wife is cheating. Sounds totally straightforward, right? But this one everyday job accidentally leads Will right into a massive, life-threatening secret. It literally changes everything for him. Okay, Section 1. Discovering the Shepard program. Let's map out exactly how Will unwittingly breached what turned out to be one of the most secure networks in the entire country. Let's trace this chronological descent because it escalates fast. On night 1, Will teams up with his buddy Bitchin, who's a brilliant electrical engineer. Bitchin builds this custom device that temporarily holds data in the RAM. Will slaps it onto Gordon's network between 3 and 5 a.m. Why? Because he knows there's a tiny, crucial 1-minute window during the system's reboot before the firewall kicks in. Boom, he's in. By day 2, he's digging through Gordon's wife's computer, but he finds something way off. Suspicious emails with a guy named Sam Novak. Skip to day 3, Will realizes Sam Novak isn't just some random guy. He's the chief technology officer of an ultra-secret government organization called Emergency, which operates right under the NSA. So what does Will do? He uses public cafe Wi-Fi, which, by the way, is a wildly risky move, to actually breach Emergency's servers and download a bunch of classified files. By day 4, Will is stuck on this deeply complex Linux-based file he just can't crack. It's called the Shepard program. He takes it to his expert friend Hosh, who figures out the program is actively trying to create an SSH tunnel to secretly connect to an unknown server, but it needs a password. And that brings us to Section 2, evading the trace, Tor and port knocking. Will knows he just poked a sleeping giant, and to fight back, he's got to mask his digital footprint. So the big question is, how does he stay hidden while hunting them? After the agency starts tracking him, Will grabs a memory card from a trap he set and fires up his laptop. He uses the Tor network to trace the agency's server IP address without exposing his own. Here's the key difference you need to know. A standard VPN, it routes your traffic through a single centralized server. But the Tor network is a whole different beast. It uses a decentralized multi-level routing system. It bounces your traffic through multiple relays run by volunteers all over the globe. This makes it virtually impossible for anyone to track exactly which Wi-Fi network Will is actually logging in from. But just having an IP address wasn't nearly enough to reach the Shepard program. To find its real home, Will has to use a very specific technique called port knocking. It's a fascinating process. First, he connects to a highly specific sequence of IP servers. Next, he exploits the open ports one by one. Think of it literally like knocking on digital doors in a precise, secret rhythm. Only after successfully navigating that whole complex gauntlet does the true hidden IP address of the Shepard server finally reveal itself. All right, let's flip the script for Section 3, the NSA agent's perspective. While Will is hacking his way to the truth, he is actively being hunted. We need to look at this from the side of NSA agents Peterson and Wallace. These agents are incredibly methodical and, honestly, completely ruthless. Remember how Will foolishly used that cafe Wi-Fi to breach the servers? Well, the agents monitored that instantly. They grabbed his friend Hash, interrogating and torturing him as a proxy target. And to really induce some panic, they literally burned Will's house down to the ground. Later on, Will and Bishan try to get clever and set a trap by placing a fake connection device at an innocent guy's house, a man named Robert. But the agents track that setup immediately too and just abduct Robert. It proves they are always hovering right behind Will. Or maybe, as we're going to see, they're actually one step ahead. Having the IP address is great, but Will still needs the password to actually log into Shepard. And that leads us to Section 4, Will versus Decimate. So Will tracks down this elite hacker named Decimate, but when he gets there, he gets a huge shock. Decimate already knows the hidden IP address. Why? Because Decimate secretly works for the very same government agencies and multinational corporations. He already has the password. We get this really stark clash of motivations here. On one side, you have Will's viewpoint. He believes information should be free, and if a program is violating human privacy on a massive scale, the public has a fundamental right to know. On the flip side, Decimate's viewpoint is all about self-preservation. He argues that exposing a program like Shepard will put countless lives in danger, and fighting government agencies is a pointless, dangerous game. To him, it's just safer to maintain the status quo. Eventually, after a ton of pressure from Will, Decimate caves and hands over the password, but gives him a severe warning to drop the whole thing. Shocker! Will definitely does not drop it. Let's move into Section 5, Exposing Mass Surveillance, where Will logs in and faces the terrifying reality of what he's just unlocked. This is the absolute core of the mystery. What exactly is the Shepard program? It turns out to be a comprehensive government tracking tool that's capable of monitoring any citizen's real-time data, live location, and private activities with zero limits. It basically allows the government to track anyone, anywhere, at any time. It completely erases the very concept of personal privacy. To test it out, Will nervously types in his friend Haish's name, and to his absolute horror, the system pulls up a live video feed of agents Peterson and Wallace actively interrogating and torturing Haish in some secret facility. Desperate for backup, Will rushes back to the cafe to convince his friend Sophia and the other patrons that they are literally all being watched constantly. There's this random guy in the cafe who completely scoffs at him, saying, he doesn't care because he isn't doing anything illegal, so Will just asks for his name and what he did last night. The guy says he just watched a movie on Netflix. In a matter of seconds, using the Shepard program, Will pulls up the exact movie the man watched, down to precisely how many minutes he watched it for. It's an incredibly chilling demonstration. It proves to everyone right then and there that privacy is totally dead, which finally convinces Sophia to help Will and Bishan break into the Homeland Security facility to rescue Haish. Now, they actually managed to pull off the rescue using forged transfer documents, but Haish is in terrible shape. They fall back to Decimate's house, which is a mistake because Decimate betrays them and calls the NSA. But let's hit pause for a second here. We need to circle all the way back to the beginning and ask one massive, vital question. Why did Gordon hire Will for a random domestic hacking job in the first place? And that big question leads us right into Section 6, the ultimate recruitment twist. This is a mind-bending revelation that turns literally everything we've just talked about completely upside down. After the NSA raids the house and captures everyone, Will is left sitting in a room for 20 days. Finally, someone walks in. And guess who it is? It's Gordon, the businessman whose wife Will supposedly hacked way back on night 1. Gordon isn't a concerned husband at all. He is a high-level NSA operative. This entire ordeal, the initial hacking, the crazy chase, the burned-down house, the torture, it was all deliberately orchestrated. It was an extreme, real-world stress test. The NSA identifies talented hackers, pushes them to their absolute limits, and, if they somehow survive the whole gauntlet, they're offered a job. Gordon intentionally set Will up just to test his skills. This entire time, it was just a brutal, twisted job interview. Gordon lays out a simple choice: work for the NSA or suffer the consequences. Will protests, obviously, screaming that the NSA killed his friends. But Gordon reveals that Haish and Sophia are actually still alive, barely, and that taking the job is the only way Will can save them and himself. Defeated, Will ultimately agrees to work for Gordon and the agency. And that leaves us with a pretty dark, provocative thought to wrap things up. If your only path to survival, and the survival of the people you care about most, requires you to become the very architect of the surveillance state you were trying to destroy, did you ever really have a choice to begin with? Definitely something to think about the next time you randomly connect to a public Wi-Fi network. Thank you so much for joining me for this analysis, and until next time, keep exploring and keep asking questions.